There's just noise all the time. And sometimes that noise starts to feel louder than it actually is. And it starts to make me angry of like, they know I'm in my office. They shouldn't be making noise.
When you're feeling reactionary versus responsive, what would you need to be in the place to respond rather than react? Do you have some practices that kind of reset you? And what gets in the way of you practicing what you just described, those kind of rhythms?
The mentality that I'm at work, so I have to get things done.
When you hear yourself say that, what do you recognize that's costing you?
It's costing me quality time with my kids. It's costing me high stress level.
You started the conversation with, there's too much noise. There's a tension there. What do you think about that tension?
I see what you did there. Wow. Welcome back to the podcast, and today is a very special episode. We are so excited to finally be able to have one of our Forte coaches on with us. And we're excited to find out what drew her to Forte and what she actually does for our clients and members. And we talk a lot about the science of mental fitness, the frameworks, the researchers, and the reps. But today we get to talk to someone who actually sits with real people who are trying to get better and grow in many ways. So today's guest is a Forte coach who works directly with clients across the mental fitness domains, helping people build the kind of inner strength that shows up in their real lives. They've seen what the research looks like when it gets messy and human. So we're going to pick her brain, steal some of the best insights, and hopefully walk away with something we can actually use. So Kimberly, we are so glad to have you here. And can you introduce yourself and just tell us right off the bat, how did you join Forte? What drew you here?
Okay. So thank you for that welcome, and I'm glad to be here today. My backstory is that in 2012, which is a long time ago, about 15 years ago, I had hit rock bottom in my perspective as I was homeschooling 4 children, 4 to 11 years old, and really just felt depleted and like a failure. And I knew that I didn't need a therapeutic response. I didn't need mental health therapy at that time, but I did need something to help me focus forward and wake up the next day, not with that feeling of failure and with some energy to give to my kids and to do an excellent job at what I was hoping to do and accomplish with my kids. And so I hired a life coach. And the partnership through that season and the mental fitness practices I learned, and of course at that time I didn't have that language of mental fitness, but practices like daily gratitude and mindset shifts and reframes, and really a huge one was understanding where I had choice and agency. So talking about that with my coach and practicing that was truly transformational in ways that continue today. So when I did hear about Forte, I should say, and I have become a life coach since then. But when I heard about Forte, it was really aligned with how I wanted to walk alongside people and what I had experienced in my own life. And so I was enthusiastic to jump on board.
That's awesome. So you were already helping people, but similar to my story, you had gone through it too. And I think that matters because you kind of get it. And my wife homeschools our kids, and I was in ministry for a long time and experienced burnout. And when you understand it, you're able to speak to it better. So I appreciate you telling us that. When you were first learning this framework, what were some of the things that surprised you most about mental fitness? And what did the research say that didn't match what you expected? Or what did you expect that turned out to be totally wrong?
Well, because in my case, I'd already experienced so many of the practices, even before understanding the language, I had experienced that the research was true. But I will say one surprising thing still, nonetheless, is that small changes bring about big results. And that still kind of surprises me today. Just a little shift can make things different. And it's like that metaphor of the airplane, that if it changes its course by 1 degree, it lands in a really different direction.
Yeah, that's great. It makes me think of recently I went on vacation and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And it was kind of one of those situations where our car blew up, people got sick, It was just not fun. We came home to a limb down in our backyard. Our dryer wasn't working. And my wife and I, through this past year, learning about mental fitness, were able to reframe it of like, well, what went well? What our kids had a great experience with their cousins. And it is that small shift, but it dawned on me of like, I don't think I would have done that a couple years ago. I probably would have focused on the negative and just gone down that rabbit hole. But because of what we're learning through mental fitness, it's like, oh, no, I can have gratitude. It's just that small shift that matters so much.
It really can change. It feels like it changes everything at times.
Yeah, definitely. So how has doing this work changed the way you show up in your own life, not just your clients' lives, but yours?
Yes, I love that question because it really has. But it has helped me just continue the practices that I started 15 years ago because I'm, on a weekly basis thinking about them and talking to Forte members about them. So it keeps those alive and happening in my life. But additionally, it I get to practice alongside people, which I've always done in my life. I've had different hats, different roles doing that. But at this point in my life, I have all adult children from 18 to 25 years old. Two of them are now engaged, so I'm gaining two more young adult children in my life. I'm involved in a church and have some mentees there. So I have all of these relationships where Forte has helped train me and just walking alongside. I feel like I'm a better listener. I can just hold space in a kind of relaxed way with people, and in part because of this Forte practice. And additionally, I didn't expect this, but Forte work allows me to connect with people from all over the country, from all kinds of backgrounds, and just connect at the human level. So that practice of connecting with, I'm going to say strangers, because in a first conversation, you are strangers,
Mhm.
and then trust builds and comfort builds in the conversation. But I think that translates in my normal life as well, where as I've been working with Forte, the checkout person at the grocery store has become far more interesting to me. And I know that, hey, if I just start a conversation, we're going to connect on something here. And I just, humans are the most interesting parts of the world that we live in. And so they've been made even more interesting to me through the work with Forte.
Yeah, that is something that I personally struggle with, and my wife is great about. She'll come out of the gas station and I'll be like, okay, who's your friend that you just made in there? Because she'll have a grin on her face. And she's like, well, I just met an old man in there and he talked about the war with me. And, like, how do you do that? And I think that's so cool to see. You're not just using this training to coach people and to talk to people, but you're living it as well. And it's in your everyday. And I think that really matters because it is an everyday practice. It's not just something that you draw from when you need it. It's something that you consistently are doing and practicing. And we talk about it all the time. It's like going to the gym. The more you do it, the stronger you become. The more you feel like I can do these things, the confidence comes. And it's really cool because in the year that I've been here, I've had those moments. I've lived at this house for 7.5 years. I've never really taken the time to talk to my neighbors. And I find myself just going over there when they're out in their yard and having a conversation, to the point where my wife was like, okay, you're done talking to them. They need to work on their yard. Like, I've never had someone tell me to stop talking because I'm uncomfortable in most public situations. So it is pretty cool to see how that impacts everyone. Now, I'd like to transition into what the conversation looks like, though. When you are talking to people, when you're working with someone, it's a real person, like you said, that maybe you've never met before. It's their real life. They're probably coming in skeptical. They're probably really busy. And they show up and they're just kind of interested. What are we doing here? What's this about? What happens in that conversation? Because I think a lot of people assume coaching is mostly talking about feelings, and it's probably a lot more than that.
There's no one answer. I mean, people come from all kinds of different thoughts and assumptions about what a Forte call is like and what's going to happen in that context. I think, so, yes, some people are skeptical. How in the world is this going to help? But typically, by the end of even a first conversation, people have some kind of sense of, you know what, that actually was good just to talk. I would say that's a good beginning point, is people just realize, I didn't expect this, but to just be able to say some things out loud, it really benefited me. And some people come from a place where they're feeling kind of stuck or overwhelmed. And I think sometimes there's narrow thinking and that this situation can't change. There's nothing that can happen. And Forte conversations really open up, I think, for people, perspective and possibilities as they're talking about the situation. So I think that is, people begin to trust that change can happen, even small changes, that they're not stuck, that there are new pathways forward that they didn't even consider before. And in the process of talking, it unfolds before them. And it's not because, you know this, John, it's not because Forte coaches give advice. We don't. We're not mentoring. We're listening, and we're noticing what we're hearing. And when people get that feedback loop, again, things just become clearer. I thought of this metaphor. You're wearing glasses, so you know what it's like when you go to the prescription eye exam, and you're sitting there as this machine's in front of you, and you're looking at the letters on the wall, and the person's putting different lenses in front of you. And how does this look? How do those letters look now? And you go through a number of them until finally you decide, this is the lens that works the best for me. I see that picture the clearest now. And that's kind of like a Forte conversation. In the dialogue, we can talk about different perspectives. You know, what else is possible? Or let's imagine this happened. What next? And, you know, it's a safe, confidential space to have those kinds of possibilities conversations. But it's the Forte member who gets to decide which perspective fit the best, and then and then kind of wear the glasses and see how it works. And they can come back to that safe, confidential space of a Forte call and talk about maybe they want a different lens. Maybe that one didn't work as well. But again, the same reality, the letters are on the wall, but just little shifts.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And I love that, kind of painting that picture of what that is, because I think it's a real world example of what you do and how you help. But can you walk me through a type of moment in your coaching work, without obviously naming anyone, where you watch someone genuinely shift in their lives? What did that look like? What do you think made it possible? I'm sure you've got so many stories of people who are like, I get it now, or there was a shift and they come back and they're super excited. Can you speak to that?
Yes. And those moments are one of the joys of being a Forte coach. And it's such a privilege to be with people when those things happen. But what comes to mind first of all is a call with a new Forte member. So it was our first call, and he was expressing what he wanted to get, kind of his situation and what he was hoping to get out of Forte calls. And he did express that he really wanted to be more present. There was some stress and anxiety, but what he really wanted was to be present in his relationships, both at work and at home. And so in the conversation, he ended up describing an interaction with a colleague at work. And as he was talking about it, he realized he was taking responsibility for the thing that this colleague was mentioning. Even without the colleague naming him in it, he had taken it on. It was creating stress, feeling anxious. And this Forte member was able to name, I think I really try to fix it all the time. If somebody says something, I'm trying to fix it. So it was in the talking and in the describing, and probably, I had some reflective questions, but in it, he recognized the pattern of, gosh, I take it on. It's stressful. I can't be present to people when I'm doing that. And then he was able to translate that to some situations at home with his family members. But then I said, well, what if, just imagine this for a minute, what if it's like a rock out in front of you? So somebody says something and it's out there. So this rock is there. You can talk about it. You can look at it. The other person can talk about it also, but it's not you, and you're not holding this thing. And for him, that visual really helped him name what was happening and shift his thinking. And so now as we continue our Forte calls, they're not always about that, but we can check in about it and say, hey, how's it going? Being present and staying connected and not trying to fix and take on whatever the situation is. And sometimes, And sometimes he will name situations where it went well, and sometimes he'll name situations where he kind of forgot about it, but it was good to talk about it, to remember. And so that's just all a part of growth. We want to have a growth mindset, be learning from even when things don't go well, rather than see losses or failure in it. But that was a really precise, not precise, but that was a very tangible shift, and special to be a part of and see how it's changing things for him.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something that's really important, and we hear a lot in the testimonials from people, is that my coach remembered the situation and they brought it up down the road. Like, this isn't it is a relationship that you're developing with our members. And it's really cool to hear them say that, of like, it means so much to me that we started as strangers, as you said earlier, and now I can consider them a friend or consider them a confidant who looks back over the things that I've done and asks me again to see how I'm doing. And that's so important, because it is really easy to be like, I struggle with confidence, and I did this one thing this one time and it felt good. But it matters when it compounds over time too. And that's what we say internally. We call it, that's a rep. That you did this thing and it's helping you build strength. Just like physical strength, you need reps. You need to do that over and over to develop that strength. So that's really cool that you said that, because I actually am transitioning to a question about reps, that it's this metaphor that we have. There's small, repeatable actions that build capacity over time. So what does a really well-designed rep look like to you, and what makes the difference between a rep that sticks and one that just becomes another thing people feel guilty about skipping?
Well, you said that in your question, you said small and repeatable. So I think small is a key word for what makes a good rep. I think it's simple. It's easy to remember. It integrates. It's tangible and can integrate in someone's life in a practical way. Just if things are too complicated, we want to avoid those complicated things. So it's simple. And then what makes a good rep is when there are touch points along the way to see how it's going. So for example, a Forte call is a rep. It is it's planned. It's doable. A Forte call can be as short as 30 minutes. That's a really small amount of time just to have that rep to pause and reflect. Another thing about a good rep is that there's a feedback loop. And typically the feedback loop is pretty quick, where someone experiences the benefit of it. So even at times they might not want to do the rep, but the feedback will quickly come that it was beneficial.
A lot of people come into mental wellness, mental health with the mindset of, I only need that when I'm broken. And I think the difference of what we do at Forte with mental fitness is that it's proactive. It's something that we never want you to get to that point. We want you to get strong so that you remain strong. But I do know that on these calls, there are people who come with real hurt, who are depleted, who feel like, I've got nothing left. And how do you coach them through the restoration side of this? What does recovery look like as a mental fitness practice and not just a philosophical idea?
So, well, and again, John, that's part of my story, was having lived a moment of feeling really depleted, but finding that over time, little by little, I was able to bounce back to a place of where I was living on purpose and able to move toward my intentions. But I think, so recovery and restoration, I think is, I want to coach people to have it as a rhythm, not just a reaction. And also, I think an important distinction is that something that is restorative is not escape. So what does it feel like? I might ask someone, what does it feel like when you've had an activity that is restoring? And usually, people, we can resonate with something about, there's energy, there's, mental, physical, even spiritual health feeling. But when we've turned to an escape, we usually don't feel energetic afterward. It just was kind of a zone out, where it wasn't purposeful, meaningful, restorative. So so talking about how to make it a rhythm and what is the feeling or the outcome that one wants out of that activity, and really identifying that so that they don't detour into escape instead of restoration.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're coaching me right now. I'm an escapist. Like, I'm that guy who, if I'm stressed, like, I'll go watch a movie. I struggle with swiping through my phone on Instagram or whatever it is. And I've actually tried to install apps on my phone to minimize my phone, make it minimalist so I don't get distracted by it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I get drawn back into that because it's easy. And I think that's kind of the key difference between escapism and having something that builds you up. Escapism is easy, whereas the other thing that builds you up,
Mhm.
it takes practice, it takes effort. And we live in a world of minimal effort right now when it comes to our mental health. And people are just kind of like, well, it feels good to escape, it feels good to do this thing, and it's too hard to try and do this other thing. But
Mhm.
like you said, when you put forth the effort and you try hard and you do this thing, it feels so much better on the other side than spending 2 hours swiping through TikTok just to numb your mind. When you go out and build something with your own hands or go for a walk or do whatever it is that fills you up, that's what it is. You're filled up.
Mhm.
You're not empty anymore. And I think that's such a
Right.
great point that you made there.
And I think that you use the word hard work, and um, but I think the hard work is actually not as hard with just advanced planning. So I think
Mm,
when we do pause to say, "Hey, what would be restorative?" Or how could I weave into my weekly rhythm um, time for a space for meditation or reflection? Just
mhm,
planning in advance takes away some of the work, so it's not as hard. Just this morning, I was on a Forte call, and this dad of young kids was saying, "I know I need quiet time, but I cannot get it. If I were
mhm,
to try to do that at home, I'd be leaving my wife with the kids." And
mhm,
so we talked about, what his drive looks like when he goes to work, and he could zone out during that drive, or he could think in advance of what would make for a meaningful, restorative drive into work, so that he's he's actually able to have that time where he is alone and it's quiet and he's in the car, to have it be the thing that he needs it to be, but he just can't find the other time for it.
My last job before this one, I had about a half hour, 40-minute commute. And those were actually cherished times for me. I would have quiet
Mhm.
time. I would listen to an audiobook, but a lot of the times I would just be quiet and process. So I'm going to put you on the spot
Mhm.
here. Let's say you're my
Okay.
Forte coach. I now work remotely. I've got 3 kids under the age of 12 at home, and my wife, who is
Mhm.
a homeschool mom. So everyone's home at the same time as me. So I do feel that sense
Mhm.
too of like, when do I get my quiet time? How do I have those moments?
Mhm.
So how would you walk me through that as a member in Forte of like, I'm struggling because I just don't have quiet time and I work from home. Let's pretend that we're in a session right now and I bring this up to you of like, hey, I'm really struggling.
So, John, what is it like for you to not have that space? Describe for me, or for us, what's that feeling that you have, or what are the various emotions you may have in
Yeah.
this place of not having the one time?
Well, it's interesting because I go from waking up, having breakfast to walking upstairs to my office, and there's just noise all the time. And sometimes that noise starts to feel louder than it actually is. And it starts to make me angry of like, they know I'm in my office, they shouldn't be making noise. And so I can be
Mhm.
reactionary because it's mounting throughout the day.
And when you're feeling reactionary versus responsive, what would you need to be in the place to respond rather than react?
Probably just a moment to breathe, maybe
Mhm.
to go outside by myself for a little bit, go for a walk, or um, put my noise canceling headphones on for a little bit. That actually helps me a lot is when I do that. And I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, so I'll put on some soundtrack music from The Shire, and that calms me down.
So you do have some practices that kind of reset you, and well, set the stage for the mindset that you wanna enter the day in, And well, and what gets in the way of you practicing what you just described, those kind of rhythms that would set you for the day?
The mentality that I'm at work, so I have to get things done, and I can't take a moment to do that for myself because I have to get my to-do list done.
And when you hear yourself say that, what do you recognize that's costing you?
Uh, it's costing me quality time with my kids. It's costing me high stress level because I'm putting that on myself. No one's ever told me that, but I have that kind of work
Mhm.
ethic mentality. So I would say
Mm.
those two things.
So imagine a day where things are going how you hope they go. So your intentions at work and at home are happening. What would that, let's say, the first half of the day look like for you?
Hmm. Yeah, probably knocking out the most important things in the morning and then spending actual quality time with the family at lunch because I am afforded that opportunity by being remote and working for a company like
Mhm.
Forte and cherishing that a little bit more and then finishing up what needs to be done the rest of the day. Then I don't have to think about those big task items in the morning. And a lot of the times I get distracted in the morning by watching YouTube or having other things out there.
So that's interesting. So you're mentioning some distractions that can get in the way of that. Um, and so we were just having the conversation about escape
Yep.
versus restore. It sounds like those distractions aren't helping you give you the rest or the quiet that you're looking for. Or how would you say it? What are those distractions doing for you?
Honestly, I think they've become habitual. I think it's just something that I've got this show that I know is on YouTube, and I'll watch it in the morning just because it's the thing that I've done for so long. And it's not really filling me up at all. It's
Mm.
just something that's on in the background. A lot of the times I don't even know what happened in the video. So yeah, it's probably just that for me. It's noise.
So I'm hearing. So that's noise. You started the conversation with, "There's too much noise. There's a
I see what
tension
you did
there."
there. Wow.
What do you think about that tension?
Yeah, that's amazing. And since this is a podcast, I think we'll cut this short so we don't get too deep into my psyche. But like, this is such a cool moment, though, to see like how this process can work because I didn't correlate those two things, and the fact
Mhm.
that I struggle with the audible noise of family being here, but I'm inserting more noise into my life. Like, I never put those two things
Mm.
together, and the way you drew that out
Mhm.
just by asking questions is like you realize that about yourself. And I'm actually sweating a little bit because I was like, wow, this is so on point. So I appreciate you walking through
Mm.
that as kind of an example. And hopefully, maybe someday we
Mhm.
can get on another call to really get down deep on that. But
Let's
that was
hope.
really cool. So I appreciate that.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
can we shift a little bit out of this now and kind of wrap up some of our thoughts here? Because I want to ask you a question about mental health and mental fitness and this it's really a newer thing that has come out in the last 15, 20 years. And we talk about it before, like 100 years ago, there weren't gyms. People were farmers. They were out
Mm.
doing physical work. And it wasn't until office work became more and more of a thing that they went to the gym. And now we're realizing the need for mental fitness. So, if you could change
Mhm.
one thing about how our culture thinks about mental health and mental fitness, the stories we tell, the way we talk about struggle, even the metrics we use, what would it be and why
Mhm.
does it matter so much to you?
I would change the almost instantaneous turning to mental health therapies as a way to address the normal human challenges of life.
Hmm.
Uh, so, and my children now are 18, 21, 23, 25. So I've just passed through that teenage journey. And of course, as we know, there's a lot of language about mental health among teenagers and
Hmm.
today. And so I just noticed there's just such a quick turning to the mental health label when we're facing normal challenges. So anxiety is a normal part of life. It's on the feelings wheel, right? We
Yep.
have happiness and joy and sadness and anxiety. And grief is a normal human experience. And so I feel like we're losing perspective on what is the normal human journey and how can we encourage each other to show up in our stories to those really human experiences with strength and resilience and a perspective that helps us keep going, to not tumble into fear that, something hard is happening right now, but to really be able to kind of embrace that and live in it and through it. I think there are times where in scenarios where we need mental health therapy, but I think we've made every scenario one where we direct people to that as the answer to the normal human experiences. And it matters so much to me because I appreciate that last part of that question, because I think that this cultural moment is robbing so many people of flourishing and thriving in their lives.
Yeah.
And again, I mentioned kids. I mean, I've just seen in their world of teenagers just too many who are not thriving when I think they could, or maybe thriving is too high of a word, but maybe just living healthy lives in the midst of it. So, I wouldn't be a Forte coach if I didn't care deeply about human thriving and human flourishing. So any of us who are Forte coaches care about that. And we believe that people can live within their stories generally, with the resources that they have in their life. And mental fitness practices are part of that. There's no mental fitness practice that requires like with physical fitness, you may need huge gym equipment and dumbbell and those kind of things, but with mental fitness practices, you don't. They're kind of internal ideas to process and then to externalize through practices. And of course, we need people to help us in that process.
I think that's one thing that I genuinely love about our platform is that it is an easy lift. It isn't difficult. The most difficult part is what we're doing right now, having a conversation. And it is an art form that our society has lost. And the thing that I love the most about what we do at Forte is that it's not a Zoom call. It's not a video call. It is simply a phone call. And it harkens back to my childhood. When I wanted to talk to somebody who was my friend, I would pick up the landline and have to call them and have a conversation. And it is so important that we are able to communicate well as humans, and we're losing that more and more. So what you do as a coach is genuinely helping people remember what it is to be human, to interact with each other and to understand each other as human to human people. And this world is ever changing with AI and so much going on, and so many companies are offering AI bots to help people. AI bots don't understand humanity on the level that another human does. And so it's so important for us to understand like what we're doing at Forte is a human to human interaction. And the exercises that we're offering are based in humanity. And we're telling you this is something one of them is reach out to somebody. That's your rep. Set it in your calendar that I'm going to call that person I've been meaning to call. Go have a coffee with them. It's that kind of simple stuff, but it's stuff that we struggle with now in society because of the way society is. So I just want to wrap up with asking you if you have anything else you'd like to say to our listeners about what it is to have mental fitness or to be a mental fitness coach. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, if anybody's listening and you wonder, I'm kind of curious, I wonder about stepping toward this, I would definitely say, there are two quotes that I love not in specifically Forte coaching, but in life coaching, which is imperfect action leads to clarity. And another one, get moving to steer the ship. So just taking a step towards something is then an opportunity to learn. So I would encourage you to give it a try, a mental fitness practice. For me, the daily gratitudes has been huge. It's so simple. And it just has grown and expanded what kinds of things that I notice now in my life. But I don't know what it would be for you. But just give it a try and then notice what you're learning as you start to practice it. And then very big for me is don't forget to celebrate along the way how you're growing from it. I think celebration is huge. And anytime you move in a direction where you intend to go, that is worth celebrating.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Kimberly. I really appreciate it. And we are so excited to be able to offer mental fitness and Forte to everybody. And if this resonated with you, check out getforte.com. Share it with the leadership at your organization. It really is changing people, and it's helping people stay at these organizations, but also grow as humans. So thank you again, Kimberly, for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, John.